Yeah, and so let's jump into the current day Minnesota. You look at the NFL as a whole, running backs are being disrespected. People are paying receivers a ton. I mean, people are backing up the Brinks trucks for receivers right now. You look at DeAndre Hopkins, you look at AJ Brown, you look at all these receivers getting, Christian Kirk even. He didn't even.
Yeah,
He's not
that was a surprise deal.
yeah, he's not a huge, thought process. And so people are now saying Justin Jefferson is going to be worth, $180 million. If you think about what's going to happen in the next 2 years with receivers versus running backs. Dalvin Cook now going into year 7. So when you look at year 7, 6 for Dalvin Cook, you were done after 8 or 9 years. Jerome Bettis, he got 9 in, I think. Eddie George was done by the time he was 30. So Dalvin Cook at age 26, 27. People are starting to say, should the Vikings move on and find a younger version? What are your thoughts on today's NFL with that? Where running backs now, it's like, hey, they're dispensable, but we need receivers. Like, how does that sit with you?
Yeah, it's definitely a different game, and because of the formations that teams usually do, go a lot of empty, or at the very least, 3 wides, 4 wides. And the ability for backs to be versatile, to be able to line up in the backfield, and then motion out into empty, try and create a mismatch with a linebacker that's got to move out. It's a completely different game. But at the same time, things tend to be cyclical, and I think that we saw this with Ricard up at with Baltimore, and of course
Yep.
us using CJ Ham. You get into that heavier personnel. You get into that 21 or even 22 personnel where you've got a couple of backs, you get a couple of tight ends, because defenses have kind of changed their personnel. They've gone lighter, they've gone faster. They'll tend to have more defensive backs in the game. You can kind of change things up a little bit and go with that heavier personnel sometimes and surprise them. But there's no two ways about it. The game has certainly changed for the most part in that you have that focus on the wide receivers and being able to have guys that can operate in space, because that analogy gets used a lot, that football has kind of become like basketball on turf.
Yeah. Yeah. And so looking at the schedule's coming out. It's schedule eve for the Vikings fans and all NFL fans. Everybody's looking at the schedule. I know you're looking at it as well. I'm looking at it because I'm trying to figure out, do I got to work on Christmas this year? Am I going to have to work on Christmas Eve? Like, what? Because Christmas is a Sunday. So everybody's like, my kids were even like, Dad, what? Like, are we going to have Christmas? Are you going to have to go to the stadium early? Like, we don't know. I'm like, is it a home? I hope it's a home game, because then I get to have my family go to, that's an easy Christmas gift for me. I can buy my family tickets to the game. They can come to the game. Christmas is done. We can open gifts after the game that night. But looking at the schedule, as a former player, when that would come out, what were you looking at? Like, were you looking at, like, when do you go to Miami, or when do you go to Arizona? When do you have to play Green Bay? What were some of the things in the schedule that you were looking forward to?
And you just hit the nail on the head. That was it. I mean, and like, because Denny's mentality was, look, the food might be cold, the bed might be hard, forget about all that stuff. March all night, fight all day. Like, it doesn't matter. Bring them on. But there's no two ways about it, man. Like, we got to be in Miami or Arizona in September, or you got to be in Green Bay in December, or now early January. those are things that stick out to you. Other than that, you're checking. Do we have a Thanksgiving game? Are there any other Thursday night games where you have that short week? When's the bye? Those kind of things. But as far as the teams, hey man, bring it on. It doesn't matter to us. We'll play anybody, anywhere, anytime. But just prepare yourself mentally when you got those super hot games or super cold games.
And was there ever a team? I mean, like, now people joke about the Jets or the Lions because they're and they say that's another bye week for us. Were there games where you guys were like, man, this team's trash? We know we could take a couple plays off. Randy will get it done for us, or I guess an extra rest week for me.
Honestly, I never looked at it that way. Like, as a running back in particular,
Yeah.
You go light, and you don't bring it the way you're supposed to, man. You can get you can get torn up in practice, let
Oh
alone a
yeah.
game. So to me, I didn't care. I didn't care what team it was. You knew that there was always an opportunity, especially because you get multiple tacklers in on a play. Like you don't, that's why there's a difference between the wide receivers and running backs. Your proximity to the ball at the snap of the ball generally is there's a relationship to the amount of trash that you talk. The further the way you are from the ball, and the less you are involved in the banging and the fewer pads you have to wear, the more likely you're going to talk that junk. As a running back, you always had to be ready. So on the schedule, hey, no cupcakes, man. Everybody's got to get the same level of energy from me.
And then last one, man, Justin Jefferson. So you look at Kevin O'Connell now, new head coach for the Vikings. So I know as an alumni, I've seen some of the emails and texts from Tracy McDonald over at the Vikings. Shout out to Tracy McDonald. They want to get you guys back, the alumni. COVID's kind of, it's relaxed now. The rules are a little bit different. It's monitor yourself, get tested if you have to, blah, blah. But they want to get the alumni back to kind of meet Kevin O'Connell. But looking at Kevin O'Connell's offense with the Rams, and you see Cooper Kupp get the triple crown of yards, touchdowns, catches. And he's publicly said Justin Jefferson can do that in my offense. What is the ceiling, or, is there a ceiling for what Justin Jefferson can do when you see what he's done in a subpar offense, I guess you'll call it, and now having a coach who's going to be all about the offense?
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited to see what this offense is going to be able to do. And, having the additions that we had on the offensive line and, the development of some of those young players, I think that's going to be the key, because when you look at the offense over the last couple of years and the performance, in particular on third down and in pressure situations, it's people say, well, Kirk Cousins hasn't performed well, yards per pass. I think he's 32nd in the league over maybe last year in yards per pass attempt under pressure situations. Well, you have to think of not just about what the quarterback is doing, but what the line's doing, how the play's designed. Where's that outlet? What is the understanding of the quarterback in relationship to what that offensive coordinator and what that head coach, and in this case with Coach O'Connell, who had been with Kirk in Washington, those guys understand each other, and they understand how a play needs to be designed to get the best result in all situations. So I'm really excited to see what that's going to look like. And, don't discount that running game, though. I think when you talk about third down performance, people generally don't look at what happened on first and second down and the yards that you have left on third down. And that's a big part of it. So you really have to look at an offense's performance holistically. How are we doing on first and second down to set ourselves up on third down? What are we doing in those pressure situations? But when you've got a talent like Justin Jefferson, of course, you hope that Adam Thielen's going to be healthy, and having KJ, we saw what he was able to do, and ISM. We got a lot of abbreviation names in that receiving core. But I'm just excited to see it, because I know what kind of offensive mind Kevin O'Connell is, and I know what kind of talent this team has.